Hey, you! Yes, you! Have you ever heard of the Fate franchise? Well, if you've been on the internet for an unhealthy amount of time like me, then you've probably heard about that hellhole of a franchise at least once. You know, the franchise that has female King Arthur whose presence alone is capable of making me fall to my knees, local teammate who is a girl feeler disguised as a girl boss, Shannon from Umineko, and my sleep paralysis demon. Yeah, that one. Anyway, I remember reading the original visual novel along with its sequel a few years back and ended up loving them so much to the point that they altered the chemistry of my brain. That is, until I read its predecessor a couple of years after, which resulted in me getting my brain chemistry altered all over again, forever changing the trajectory of my life. You see, as much as I love the Fate franchise, I feel like Tsukihime resonated with me in a more personal level. While Fate Stay Night has a special place in my heart for being the first visual novel I've ever read, Tsukihime takes the place as one of the medias that impacted me most as a person through its story and characters. So, having said all that, let's talk about Tsukihime. Before we talk about the story itself, allow me to do the honors of providing a little bit of backstory. Tsukihime was originally released in December of the year 2000 in a winter comic kit written by Kinoko Nasu and illustrated by Takashi Takeuchi. The two would then later be known as the founders of Type Moon, a company known for works such as the Fate series, Kara no Kyokai, Houtsukai no Yoru, and many others. These stories make up one big universe called the Nasuverse. A remake of the original Tsukihime was finally released 2 years ago on the 26th of August 2021, after decades of uncertainty. Okay, are we good? Yes? Okay. One more thing before moving on to the premise, this visual novel contains triggering themes such as these, and as such I implore you to not engage with it if any of them triggers you. Okay, back to the video. The story of Tsukihime is told through the eyes of 17-year-old Todoshiki, who got into a life-threatening accident 8 years prior to the story. This led him to gain the ability known as the Mystic Eyes of Death Perception, which basically means he can see the lines of death that are present in every object and living things, including human beings. When traced, these lines all come together to highlight a singular point. When this point is cut, well, you basically die. Destroying it basically means inflicting instant death. A quick TLDR of the prologue because I have a time limit to think about. So, little Shiki hates himself because he feels like his eyes make him a monster. Until he met a mysterious woman by the name of Aozaki Aoko who taught him many life lessons and gave him magical glasses which allow him to see the world normally again. Hooray! And then Aoko said bye-bye. But in all seriousness, the prologue is, in my opinion, one of the most iconic scenes of Tsukihime. It brings back so many memories every time I read it, and it perfectly encapsulates what Tsukihime is about. So, what is it about anyway? If I had to sum up Tsukihime's core theme, it would be finding reason. To summarize, after his meeting with Aoko, Shiki was adopted by a branch family of the Tonos before returning to the main family years later when he received news that his father had recently passed away, and a word from the current family head, his younger sister Akiha, telling him to return home. Okay, so from this moment on, the game is divided into two main stories with a total of 5 routes. Those being the near side routes, Arcueil and Ciel routes, and the far side routes, Akiha, Hisu, and Kohaku routes. I'm mostly going to talk about Arcueil's route and the general outline for the far sides today, so yeah. Sorry CL fans, I have a time limit, but I still love her all the same, okay? Yeah, okay. The near side route centers more around Tsukihime's world building and its urban horror fantasy elements involving creatures like vampires. In fact, Tsukihime's poster girl, Arcueil Brunstad, is a vampire herself. Her route starts off with Shiki adjusting to his new life in the Tono mansion, and attempting to reform his lost bonds with his sister Akiha and her 2 maids who have been serving her for years, Hisui and Kohaku. Of course, everything changed when he had a not-so-normal encounter with a certain vampire. Minor spoilers, but what happened was that he spotted her amidst the crowds and followed her to the hotel that she was staying in and proceeded to unconsciously slice her into 17 pieces, killing her. Yeah, it's totally normal. Okay, can I just talk about how insanely good this scene in the remake is? I mean, the way in which Nasu wrote this particular scene in the original was already in a really uncanny and disturbing way. But the remake really enhances the horror of it with its updated visuals and audios. As I mentioned before, we see the story through the perspective of Shiki, so reading his inner thoughts as he brutally killed the innocent Arcoid was really unsettling to say the least. And because the game places us in Shiki's shoes, we ultimately cannot help but to find ourselves terrified of what's happening to him. Keep in mind that Shiki's tendency to kill and slowly declining mental state is present throughout the visual novel, resulting in many scenes like these. Anyway, after coming back to his senses, Shiki is terrified to discover the horror that he has brought upon. We are then presented with two choices, either denying the reality of the murder or to accept it as is. Choosing to deny it leads you to play through Arcoid's route, while accepting it leads you to play CL's. The day after the murder, Shiki is awakened by Hisui, and he convinces himself that what happened yesterday was all a bad dream caused by him passing out due to his anemia, which would conveniently explain the lapses in memories. This is in fact not true. During his way to school, he immediately came to a halt by the side of a certain figure, a figure of someone who shouldn't be there, someone whom he did not want to remember, someone whom he killed. Shiki ran away, thinking that the woman wanted to kill him after what he did, but to his surprise, no. That was not the case at all. In fact, one of the first things Arcoid says to Shiki is this. Yeah, so this whimsical, happy-go-lucky vampire was only pissed about it for like a night and decided that she would even forgive Shiki for what he did as long as he regretted his actions. So ever since this fateful day, Shiki's mundane everyday life would turn into a life filled with vampire hunting, getting into trouble with Arcoid, and all that fancy stuff. The two would eventually grow closer together, and their dynamic ended up being one of my favorites in this entire game. Arcoid's route is a story about what it means to live life itself. You see, Arcoid is a vampire who has lived for hundreds of years yet has never really experienced anything fun. This is why she's so easily entranced by normal everyday things like going out to eat or watching cheesy movies. She represents the more innocent and cheerful approach of life, while Shiki is a human who is basically a personification of death himself. Being surrounded by that at all times, it causes him to have a more accepting viewpoint of living. To him, being alive itself is a blessing. Throughout the story, we see the two of them being a bunch of dorks slowly falling for each other. It feels like those classic innocent love stories where the girl just drags the guy around to cause mischief, and honestly, I find it pretty cute. It also has its bittersweet moments, which I adore as well, like this particular scene that shows them talking about immortality and what ifs. And this scene that's a classic, the classroom scene. This is the scene that made me love the Arcoid route. It's the scene of them talking about what it means to live for yourself and how you can still enjoy living by doing normal everyday things. Because in the end, you're the one who gives meaning to those seemingly meaningless things, and ultimately, a meaning to your own existence. Just simply being alive is enough of a reason to keep going. I love this route a lot. It's your typical boy meets girl story, but with a twist. The roles in which Arcoid and Shiki play in it complement one another. Arcoid's character representing the tenderness of life while also representing childlike loneliness is something that I find very bittersweet. To me, appreciating Arcoid's existence is the same as appreciating life itself. Shiki's development throughout this route is also very nice. Despite his fragile existence, he learned to live in the moment and gave himself a reason to live, all while understanding that he could die at any moment.
そっか。それが四季の心なんだ。そうしているだけで楽しいか。
Okay, so we can finally talk about the far side routes, aka the source of my misery. Let's go! Okay, so these routes are like the main reason as to why you should read the original Tsukihime, because like the remake doesn't include these routes. Like there's only a preview of it that shows up once you complete the remake, but that's basically it. We don't have a release date or anything. Oh, also, most of the triggering stuff that I mentioned in the beginning are mostly the core themes of exploration in these routes, so yeah. In any case, What makes these routes so good to me is the homey yet somber atmosphere they have. Contrasting the near side, which is packed with many action scenes, the far side focuses more on the dark secrets of the Tono mansion and its residents, Akiha, Hisui, and Kohaku, along with the past that has been forgotten by Shiki. And let me tell you, boy, was it an experience! The far side uses our past knowledge from the near side and bends it in a way that makes us wonder what is really going on in this household. It deliberately messes with our minds, leaving us in a state of confusion similar to Shiki's. Hence why we'll see more of Shiki spiraling into this horrifying state of madness. The way in which the plot progresses is narrated in a very vague yet compelling way, because every time you think that you know what's going on, another layer of information is given to you that opens up even more questions. And all of these informations perfectly tie into some of the things that seemed out of place in the near sides. Not to mention that Shiki himself is an unreliable narrator, making it even more difficult to make out what exactly is going on. All the mysteries and psychological horrors do a great job of hooking you into the story. Another reason as to why you should read the original Tsukihime is dumb. Please, I cannot say anything much about them because doing so would mean going to spoiler territory, but okay, so basically, they're my favorites, okay? My absolute favorites. They have my favorite dynamic in the entire game, and it's just it's so good in a way that it's so tragic. Wow! They have so much flavor in them that it's oh my god, I can't even begin to describe. Okay, I am so normal about them. I am totally normal about them. Totally, definitely. So, with everything in mind, should you read the original Tsukihime? Well, if you don't mind the dark themes and outdated interferences, then sure. The original version does have its downside of being a little rough around the edges. Some things felt like they weren't polished enough, and the exposition dumps can get tiring. But overall, I definitely enjoyed reading through the original Tsukihime. It only takes roughly 50 hours to complete the original, and it's one of my favorite pieces of media of all time. And oh my god, after reading through it, I just want to give the cast one big group hug. Guys, I'm being so serious, they literally did not deserve anything that they went through. Anyway, yeah! Go read Tsukihime, and don't forget to buy the remake on the PS4 and Switch. Oh, what's that? It's not available in English yet? Not to worry, because a group of passionate fans called Tsukihimates fully translated the remakes, so yeah, go ahead and visit their website for more information. They did a spectacular job translating it. Oh, what's that? You don't have a console? Well, a handful of people uploaded a walkthrough of both routes on YouTube, so there is no excuse. Go read Tsukihime. Thanks for watching. Mwah!